Okay, hi, welcome to lesson number 2. Reminder, lesson number 1 was on the basic illusions of space. So we kind of talked through when we're doing a landscape painting like this, beautiful painting, oil painting, the objects in the foreground here are going to become very, very large, right? Because they're closer to the camera. And then as we go back into the distance, the size and placement is going to shift higher in the picture plane, and the objects are going to appear smaller. The details are also going to fade as we go back into space and color. And this one's a very misty linear perspective drawing. So yes, this is kind of where we're going. What we're going to move into today is we're going to move away from more organic shapes and move into more geometric shapes. So we're thinking like cubes. So to keep it simple, we're going to keep it 1-point linear perspective. So whatever we draw today, your eyesight is perpendicular to a plane or a side. Okay? What's going to happen is your viewpoint is going to be, you'll shift it down or up, so you'll see more of another side, the front and also another side. This sort of idea is what we're going to go into 1 point. We get more fancy, we'll turn this so we view it at a corner, and this will get into 2 point. And then depending on your viewpoint, it'll even get into 3 point. We'll even go into a little bit more complicated forms and go into like houses and other shapes besides just rectangles. That's something to look forward to. We have 2 sort of linear perspective units. The main group is going to be rocking and rolling with a very, very simple stacked box, 1-point linear perspective. For this group, this is more of an extension, right? So I'm going to challenge you guys to push you at a little bit quicker, more complex pace than some other folks, because what you've showed me is you have some idea of linear perspective. If we're looking here, reminder, this is 1-point linear perspective. So we're going to have one vanishing point. We're going to place in some random boxes of other sizes and placements throughout this paper. The vanishing point is going to sit on that horizon line, and then we're going to use these converging lines, which we had talked about in our last lesson, that are going to create the side planes. Okay. What I would challenge you to do is have at least one overlapping form. So one of these 2, these are all floating by themselves, have like one of these covering up another, okay, as a little extension. The other thing we're going to really move into is some cutout shapes. So I'm going to push you guys to think about interior, exterior spaces as well, which makes it a little bit more complex. Okay, now this is going to be our geometric forms, this box, and then we're going to move into the exterior forms over here and do an organic landscape later on. So what I'm going to say is, first thing that I want you to do whenever we're starting with linear perspective is we want to place our horizon line. Okay, use the edge of your paper to sort of line this up so that we're sort of parallel with that edge, and you're going to place in a horizon line. Okay, get in the habit whenever we're starting linear perspective to get less frustrated. You definitely want to draw lightly. Okay, once we get the form set down on the space, then we can push a little bit harder and get these heavier lines and push in some value and detail. But don't jump too quickly to pushing too hard, because if we have to make an adjustment, you'll get really frustrated really quickly. Okay, I would like to just do a little reminder up here. So with 1-point linear perspective, you're going to have one vanishing point, okay, that all the lines converge to. Okay, that vanishing point is going to sit on this horizon line. Okay, I'm going to put mine a little bit off center. Okay, the smaller you can get into placing that vanishing point, avoid really large ones, the more accurate your forms will be. I would recommend a mechanical pencil, because then you don't have to sharpen it as much. You're totally welcome to use an old-fashioned pencil. The only disadvantage to this is you're going to have to keep it really sharp and sharpen it a lot. Okay, so again, one vanishing point on the horizon line. With 1-point linear perspective, we're going to lay in some random different size forms here. We are going to make those out of vertical lines that go straight up and down, and horizontal lines. Okay, everything on this front plane, no matter if it's a rectangle or square, is going to be a vertical or horizontal. We aren't going to have any weird angles because this is 1-point linear perspective. So you're either going to have a vertical, a horizontal, or converging line. Okay, we're not going to have any other type of line. We're going to keep it really simple. And then you just want to lightly lay in a few different sizes. I'm going to do one sort of floating above the horizon line. I'm going to do one long skinny one over here behind this one. And then I'll do a smaller one down here. Okay, you could add in however many you want if you want to do another one. Again, am I using my ruler? No. I'm just sort of placing size and scale. At this point, you can shift stuff around. So I might make this one longer and skinnier. Okay, so again, I'm drawing very lightly so I can make those adjustments. Because I want them to look like diverse, right? So they're not all the same. Maybe I'll make this one really long and skinny this way. Okay. Now, before we get into straightening those and talking about any sort of perfecting stuff, do understand as we're moving lower in the picture plane, you're going to have the box where you can see more of this top plane. So the lower it is, the more of that top plane you will see. As you get closer to the horizon line, the less of that. If it's totally overlapping, like this one is, the horizon line, you can erase out that horizon line and you won't see the top or the bottom of this form because it's like right in your eye level. Then when you move above the horizon line, your eye level, then you'll start to see the bottom of the box. The higher up it goes, the more of that base or the bottom plane you will see. Okay, so right now I'm only going to see a sliver of this one because it's pretty close to the horizon line. So I might slide this one up a little bit to get a little bit more of that side that I'll see there. Okay, so I would, just to start out and get warmed up, don't have your forms too close to the horizon line. The lower they are, the easier they are to find the form. Okay, now we have our ruler here. If we were being very perfect, we'd actually have a T-square, because for the horizontal and vertical lines you're about to draw, the T-square would allow you to line it up with your paper, and you would always be able to draw horizontal lines without having to think about it. Okay, and then you could go in here and just straighten some of these lines that you sketched out. Again, you don't want to push too hard because you're still working out the forms. Okay, and I'm just gonna try to eyeball this a little bit so I don't waste a lot of your time with my ruler. The more you practice with linear perspective, the more you're able to draw pretty straight edges without having to use that ruler. But starting out, you're gonna wanna rely heavily on the ruler to make sure your forms are really as perfect as you can make them. Okay, and I have this form floating on top of this one. So it's actually going to cover up that top corner. Okay, makes sense. Now, I would spend some time erasing some of this extra stuff. I don't want to waste a lot of time in this one with perfecting quite yet. So right now, you just have some floating space. You have a little bit of space you've created with this overlapping element. And then you're going to just imagine, just like one point, each one of these corners is going to line up with their vanishing point. Okay, if you line up one of your corners and you're actually drawing through your form, sometimes in the beginning it's good practice just to line up all 4 of your corners, so you're drawing like it's an invisible box or a see-through box. But you wouldn't need, if this was a solid form, you wouldn't need to draw those 2 corners. Okay, now I would like for you guys to use your ruler when you're doing this. Again, I'm just sort of sketching it out quickly. My ruler is not see-through, so it actually confuses a lot of people. I'm going to draw in this corner just so I can see where it is for that converging line. Okay, and I could draw in that corner if I wanted. Okay, and you sort of get where we're going with this. Okay, once you get to this point, you sort of have all these converging lines. And again, get in good habit of just doing corner, vanishing point. Like I'm a little bit off right here. It makes a difference to be precise. Okay. And then you're just sort of laying out your picture. So from here, I'm sort of thinking about, I want to have overlapping elements. I'm going to have cutouts. So you're sort of thinking about how big your forms are. So then if I want this to stop going continuously on and on and on, I'm going to basically use this front angle and cut it off with a parallel edge. Okay, so remember, this is your edge here. You're going to cut it off with a parallel edge right down here. Okay, so then I'm going to say this box, I'm going to push a little bit harder so you can see, is about this big. Okay, start to see it. Again, you want to get rid of that extra side here because it's overlapping. We have to cut off this side too. So now we have this back corner. We're going to come with a parallel vertical. And again, this is just a reminder from what I said in the beginning. You're either going to have converging to the vanishing point, vertical lines, horizontal lines. Okay, you don't have any other lines. So this is my vertical line. These are my converging lines, my horizontal lines here. Okay, so basically each cube will have 3 verticals, okay, 3 horizontals, and then it'll have 3 converging lines. Okay, if you see 3 planes. This one you're only going to see 2 planes or 2 sides. So this one I'm going to have it converge back. I'm going to have it be a longer form. So I'm going to bring a vertical right here and cut that one off about right here. But it's going to be a nice long skinny form right about here. And I can't see this corner, so it's basically going to go up there and stop. Okay, and then it's just cleaning up. So I can go in here and get rid of all the rest of these converging lines because I don't need any of them. So you can come in here and just start to get rid of all the extra stuff you don't need. Now, before you get going and erasing everything, the challenge I have for you is, you can start to play in here and figure out the rest of them, is to think about cutout shapes. So if I were to just like have a window here on this front side, and you could begin to look into this form. This is easy, right? These are just straight verticals because this plane is easy, vertical, horizontal. If you want to have a window here, then you're going to follow your front corner. So this one's a horizontal. These 2 sides are going to converge back to your vanishing point. So they're following the edge, what the edge is doing. This one's converging, this one will converge. And then this one will just follow the back, right? Horizontal. So you'll have a cutout window there. And then you could have a cutout window here on this side, okay? So you would start, this is a vertical, so this one's going to be a vertical. The top converges and the bottom converge, so then you're just going to follow that, converge, and then you just finish that up with another vertical here. Now, doesn't look like really anything, just kind of confusing. You're like, Del Campo, what are you doing? But I'm going to zoom in and start to show you some magic here. Okay, what I'm going to get at in a little bit is this idea of interior-exterior spaces. So what is going to play is sometimes you have to draw this back corner. Remember how I said draw like it's invisible? Because if I have this converging line back here, you'll know that this is the inside ceiling, right, of this form. This is that back corner here. If this one comes across, this is actually going to become the back corner of the box. So it's kind of like a lot of lines, but it's like, this is the front. If you've ever drawn one of these cubes before, you have the back and then you have the front, right? And then you just connect the corners to make that box see-through. You're drawing this back wall here, right here. You see that? Okay, this is the front wall. And I just colored over it, so now it's hard to see, right? So you're drawing kind of through the form, right? This is the back wall, this is the front wall, and then you have to make sure you know where those corners are. Okay, so the same thing here. Here's the corner, this is the back ceiling line, this is the back floor line, this is a vertical. So now you know where your inside interior shapes are. Like this is the side wall of the inside of the box. This is the ceiling. Okay, and right now it'll start to go through this really confusing mode where you're like, what is going on? All these lines, I don't understand. And then all of a sudden you'll see it. And that's the magic of linear perspective. Okay, you can also think about adding dimensional qualities. So some of these cutouts, like if this had a thickness to it, this corner would be converging. This one would be parallel to the front here. And that corner would just be parallel to this horizontal. So then you would say, okay, this is all the thickness of the cutout here. That's the ceiling cutout. This is the back ceiling of that. Do you start to see it? And sometimes it's nice to start to even shade in some of these components so you can start to see some magic. Okay, I'm going to say play with it, and just keep in mind, no matter what you do, you have vanishing to the vanishing point, a horizontal, vertical. If your forms start looking wonky, like I'm doing these things converging, a lot of the times what students are doing are their edges aren't parallel, right? So this form might look a little bit, might look a little bit wonky because this one needs to be parallel to this one. So make sure you don't have any like weird corners. This line is not a vertical, converging, or horizontal. That's a wrong line, so it has to be a vertical here. Okay, so if you have some weird forms, you'll be working in small groups and you can kind of ask somebody to help you. You can also just come back and ask me, and I'll help you, guide you to what we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll upload a photo of sort of where you can work towards. But again, yours can look whatever way you want. Your sizes of your forms can be whatever shapes you want. The main thing is I want you to think about interior, exterior spaces and play with the dimension of this. Okay, good luck, have fun.